Good afternoon, everyone. Janice Petteway, Director of Brokerage Development for EXIT Realty Corp International. Thank you for being here today. Today, we invited everybody to this broadcast because of all the craziness that is going on in the world right now and in our lives. And I know that it can be very stressful. So I wanted to spend time with each one of you today and what we're going to do going forward. Today is kind of an overview of what our crazy world has gone through as far as real estate markets in the past, so you can get a sense of the fact that this is going to happen to us every so many years throughout our whole careers. It's just the way the world goes. It's life. And then we're going to go into kind of getting our heads screwed on straight today, and then starting tomorrow for as long as I feel like we're in this, which might be a very long time or a very short time. You're going to get something from me on a daily basis, and that's going to be more task orientated. Because of what I've been through, I've learned a lot. So I want to share that with you and give you some tips to still have a very successful year. So background, I've been in this business for about 31 years, and there's been some craziness in the past for sure. So in the 80s, we had also a pretty good market hit with the interest rates going up into the 16s, 17s. I was in my very early 20s. I remember my husband at the time, we were building a house on property that we actually owned. We started at 11.75% interest, and by the time it was finished, we were at almost 14%. Looking back now, I can imagine the lender was probably like, this young couple probably doesn't really qualify anymore. But it was our land, so we did it. But we didn't. We were young and naive, which is sometimes a good thing, and we just kept working every day and doing what we had to do. But then, do you remember? Some of you will remember 12/31/1999, that Y2K. I mean, the world was supposed to end, and people pulled out of contracts and didn't want to sell their home and didn't want to do anything because they thought all our computer systems wouldn't know what to do when it hit 2000 and the world would stop. Well, that didn't really happen. And again, I just kept working. You know why? Because I had a mortgage to pay. And I didn't really, and I had children, little children, and I just couldn't let what was happening around me affect feeding my kids. So I just chose to keep walking forward, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But then we all know 9/11 happened, and I want to talk about that for a minute. My children were in school that morning. I was already out and about, as many of you were, and all I wanted to do was get home to my kids. And yes, we had a crisis there. We had worldwide the crazy things going on, and my brain at that time was just protecting my children, no different than today. But I also had just really started building my team in my real estate company, and I was responsible for like $30,000 a month in outlay between my personal and business office, all of that stuff. I was single at the time, raising my children, and there was some fear things, but I learned a lot through that. And then, of course, the dot-com was in the middle, right around that time, 2001, 2002. A lot of people lost a lot of money, and real estate got a little crazy then. 2008, that was, 2008 seemed to go on forever. 2008 really went into 2016, or thereabouts, for the Florida real estate business, and some of you went through all of that. I learned a lot through that, and I'm going to share with you some of the tactics to get through it and still be successful. Now here we are in 2020. And again, something that is affecting not just the real estate business, it's many, many businesses just like the other times. But what I've learned is we get so fearful and we let stress affect us in so many negative ways. So really, what is different right now? Many, many things are different depending on what your personal beliefs are about what's going on. But there's a lot of good things that come out of everything. And a lot of it has to do with what we do on a daily basis to get us ready for the next phase of our career. I know you guys, I talk to you. I'm a realtor at heart, I always will be. And no matter what my position is, I'm a realtor at heart and a self-employed person at heart. And I know you guys because I am you. And we don't, in our careers, work every day. We don't always work 40 hours a week. We don't always work 40 hours per week for 12 months. So I want you to think about something right now. Maybe right now we're being forced to do some things that we should be doing anyway in our personal life, in our home life, in our business. And in this instance, this may be over with quicker than most of the things that I've been through. So if that's the case, let's just think right now, maybe instead of kind of sporadically doing our work for the next year in 2020, this time frame where you're working really hard for a week and then not so hard, let's just say we're going to take the next 6 or 8 weeks and focus on getting ready for the rest of the year. And then when we come out of this and come out of our homes and our quarantine, let's say, we're going to work our butts off outside of our quarantine and catch up. I personally believe, because I've seen it, that a lot of this creates more need for us to be professionals, but also to be ready to serve them. Because for the people right now that can't, or that are choosing not to purchase or sell, I think there's going to be some pent-up energy, don't you? There's going to be some pent-up need. So we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks daily the things that you need to do to get ready for that business. But some of the things I've learned, these life lessons that I hope will serve you well right now if you're a little stressed out, is the number one thing is don't worry twice. Please don't worry twice. You will know when you need to worry about something, but right this minute, do what you can to stay positive and do what you need to do today in your own personal zone, with your family and with your business. If you haven't had someone in your immediate family get the virus and get sick, then please don't worry about it twice. Worry about it when it happens and do the things that you need to do. That's number one. And a lot of you guys have heard me say this, and it's become a personal mantra of mine since I was very young. A lot of you guys know my story, and you know that the things in life I've been through and the hard lessons I've learned. So this is one of the big ones. If it is fixable with money, it is really not a problem. Now, a lot of you guys are probably like, what does that mean? I can't maybe pay my rent or my mortgage, or what do I do? All of that stuff's fixable tomorrow if it need be. But the things in life that are really big are not fixable with money. You're losing someone to whatever it happens to be. They're gone, they have passed. You're going through a real life struggle as far as something you can't fix with dollars, a sickness or whatever. But if you're a little short on reserves right now, or your listings are canceling, or your buyer transactions are canceling, all of that stuff's fixable in the future. So you've got to learn to keep things in perspective. Yes, it can get very stressful and it can get bad, but until you know what something really bad is, you have a tendency to think a lot of this other stuff is going to ruin your life. It's not. We learn the best things through our crisis in our life, right? So it's kind of like one of the other things I say all the time. Tammy will tell you, you have to decide every day if you choose to be right or you choose to be successful. And what can you do to stay in the success mode every day? One of the things you can do is change your mindset. So, we have a stimulus and we have a reaction in everything that we do and in everything in our life. So is it, when we have the stimulus, what do we do between the reaction and the stimulus? Take those few seconds. So this will give you a good example of some of the things that I do. The virus, virus. You can choose to focus on it, or you can choose to break it down and make it something different in your life. So V is, in my world right now, is for vital. I, imaginative, R, realtors, U, ultimately, and S, succeed. So vital, imaginative realtors ultimately succeed. That's how I'm going to choose to look at the virus from this moment forward. So yes, we need to be vital in our markets. We need to be the voice of knowledge and reason to not only the market in this industry, but to our friends and family in our sphere. We need to be imaginative. What can we do now to be using our imagination to get in front of our people, to let them know what's going on and how we're going to help them succeed in the real estate world. So if you're a leader of an office, use your imagination. What can you do? And I'm going to be giving you lots of ideas, I promise you. Realtors, gosh, I say this to you guys probably at least once a year. You hear me say this. I'm proud of who we are as an industry. I believe that we single-handedly change and help our local economies through real estate, because we're the ones that get out there after these events, whatever you want to call them. I choose to call them just events. I'm not going to call them crisis. I'm going to call them events. We have events that we have to do what's right, follow the guide of our leaders, and right now we're following the doctors and our, I don't want to get political, but the leaders of our world right now are trying to give us as much knowledge as possible. So you're going to choose to listen to what you believe on some of that, but let's listen to the people that understand the impact of what this could do health-wise. So I'm staying home as much as possible, and I would be, if I had young children, I'd be keeping them close by too. So you're going to listen to the right people, but you're going to broadcast the things that can use your imagination. Be a realtor, broadcast things that will help them isolate, stay home, but be ready for a great market coming out of this. We're going to be the ones that go and get out there and show what's coming next in your own local market and how you can be part of that solution. I'm so proud of us. We hold the keys to the homes where their babies sleep, and it's something that I never take lightly. We're the ones, I learned a lot going through our foreclosure market in 2008. And we're going to be talking about that. But I was proud of the fact that I was the one going to the door and treating people with respect and dignity when I had to talk to them about the fact that their lender was in the foreclosure phase. And was there something we could do to help? Could we help them with a loan modification? Could we help them with cash for keys? What was it that I could help them be treated with respect and move on in their financial life? What was their plan? What could I do? I'm proud of us for being part of that. Ultimately, we will move through this, right? So I'm going to focus on ultimately, what can I do to be a catalyst for success? And I want you to start thinking about that too. And then we're going to succeed, right? We are. Some people will succeed right out of this business. And so those of us that are still in it will maybe have more transactions per year. But things like this teach people that really don't have the heart for this to make that decision that I do better when I have a paycheck weekly. I can't take the ups and downs. That's okay for them to do that, but I want to talk to you guys about things that we can do to get our heads straight in this business and keep all the people that we communicate with safe, healthy, but also inspired to be ready to get out of our homes, get out of our own little shells, and create the business that we need to create, right? So I want you to remember that virus is vital, imaginative realtors ultimately succeeding in the world, right? So I want you to write that down, and when you start veering off and start worrying about things twice, go back to that. What does that mean to you on a daily basis? How are you being part of those words, not only in your own business, or if you're running an office, how are you doing that to your own people? What does that look like every day? What messages are you getting out to them, but also in your household? So these are some things I want you to think about. We're going to be talking about your finances, family, friends, sphere, the future, all of that stuff. But there's some things I want you to do right now to get ready for what I'm going to be doing with you going forward on a daily basis. You're going to get something from me every day, somewhere 10-15 minutes is it, but I want you to be committed to do those tasks and to stay on task. It's not all going to be about real estate and realtor things. I have found in life, I'm 60, you guys, I'm 60, and I have found that what makes me whole and balanced is business, family, health, spirit, body, whatever your thing is. And when you look at that, what does that mean to you? Of course, we know what business is. Business is, I always look at that and say it's different to everybody, but my business world is, what do I do inside the hours of my day to create the income to have the life I choose to have? So to me, finances is different than business. Finances is, what do I do with the pennies that I earn to create the financial life and stability that I choose to have. So right now, I actually am excited about the lessons that many of you will learn about finances, because we seem to go, kind of lollygagging along about our finances in life until we get slapped. It's like the universe, taps us on the shoulder and says, hey, every time you get a paycheck, you probably shouldn't spend it all. Or, hey, you're not 20 anymore. What are you doing financially for your future? And hey, pay attention to me. Do you have enough reserves if the world changes for 6, 8 weeks, 12 months? Do you? Hey, hey, hey. And then finally we get, boom, the 2x4. That's how life works. So for some of you guys, this is the 2x4. Well, I never could probably really get you guys to dig in and do what you have to do financially to create the financial life that I want you guys all to enjoy and become your best client and invest in your own product, real estate, because you weren't ready. Well, I'm thinking after this, there could be a lot more people ready for that. So I am excited about that. So we have business, we have finance, we have health. When we are stressed, it doesn't do our health good. So that we're going to be talking about things that you can do now and every day to to work on your health, to get out of your own head, per se. Relationships, spirit, all of that stuff help in that. So, again, there's going to be so much we're going to be talking about. But right now, I want you to be ready. Always have something to write with, and I want you to hear this very deeply with all of your fiber right now. Um, I know that we use devices and we log in and we type but I personally believe there's a disconnect when you're doing that. So I want you to get something to write with. Be a little old-fashioned now. And when you're listening to me, I want you to write, and I want you to doodle, and I want you to dream, and I want you to get off whatever we're doing and sit there for at least 15 minutes and absorb it and take some notes about what that meant to you and what you're going to do to be better every day coming through this and then out of this, because trust me, we will be out of this. And I personally believe this is going to be shorter than most of the things that a lot of us have been through in market changes and economy things, because we are doing what the experts are telling us to do. We are self-isolating. I think that's good. And so if we do that, we are going to flatten this curve, and you will start to see the number of people getting sick will be lesson, and then eventually they'll tell us, okay, this is what we need to do going forward, and we will. And so I don't think that this definitely to me is not going to be like 2008 and all of the years and all the learning and all the triumphs and tribulations we went through in that. So pay attention to that. So right now, there's some simple things I want you to do. And then today, a lot of it is going to be about you personally. But I want you to get some things, if you have children at home especially, but some of these things you can do virtually as well. But if you have children at home, there's going to be some stressful days because a lot of us are not used to having a house full of people. But every day, I want you to share with each other one thing that you really like or love about each other and write it down and post it. If you were an office leader, I would suggest that you do that maybe about the real estate business or about each other, and maybe post it on your personal Facebook page for your office. But there's going to be a lot of babies born in about 9 or 10 months, but there's also going to be a lot of separations and divorces because we're not used to being together as much maybe as we're going to be going forward. So let's focus on the good that we see about each other and in each other instead of getting irritated with each other. So isolation and staying out of the public does not necessarily mean that you have to stay on top of each other. So where do you live? What does that mean for you? I want you to do something every day to exercise. So does that mean that you and your children go for a bike ride, or do you go out in your yard and do some yard work? Do you go outside and sit in the sun for a few minutes and write down all of the people that you have not spoken to in a while, and who do you need to call? Right now, there are people that you haven't talked to in a while. And you may think this has nothing to do with real estate and how I succeed going through this and forward. And I'm here to tell you, yes, it does. You have disconnected from so many people that you can do future transactions with that you otherwise will not if you don't do some of these things. These are things you should be doing all along anyway, but you know what? Social media and Facebook and FaceTime has gotten us away from real time with real people. And you know, I personally believe that the pendulum swings really far one way, and then it's almost like the universe says, I'm going to smack y'all upside the head because we are human beings and we're kind of pack animals, and we don't do real well if long term if we stay too isolated. So this may become the best lesson for a lot of us. Doing real estate is really a face-to-face business, and we can do a lot of things through social media and through communication through devices. But I think it's time that we remember and learn that all of that should be for ongoing communication, updates, maybe things that we just learned that you want to share, things like that. But our actual business and life is it's really meant to be lived face to face, getting together with each other. And I personally believe that this isolation is going to teach us that we really have been missing each other. And we've really been missing that the fact that we prefer to be together. So yes, a lot of you have maybe stopped going to your offices as much as you did 5 or 8 years ago. And I think we might learn that a couple days a week, it's great to work in the office. I love when I hear the agents in the office sharing and talking, learning from each other. And you can't do that through virtual reality, guys, because you never know where a conversation's going to go when you're together. So I love the fact that when you're in the office, you're saying things like, you know, I'm getting ready to list this property or that property, or you know what I learned through that deal falling apart, and the conversation goes and goes and goes. I think we're going to become more social, and I think it's going to be more face to face, which is going to create more transactions. So I want you to think about that. I want you to pick, and I'm going to be giving you lists of books and podcasts to listen to and to read. I love Audible, but right now there's probably some value in having a good book. You probably have several in your house that you can reread and pick up and go sit in the sun for 15 minutes. What a good example for your children. What can you do to show them? Like here's a good example, guys. Um, we're raising children, and sometimes we're not teaching them the things that we learned from our parents because we're too busy. We're all too busy. So right now, how about posting you teaching your kids how to make a recipe that your great grandmother passed through generations? How about a lost skill that you are now teaching others? You could also do it through Facebook Live. Annette Anthony, why don't you teach us how to make salsa live? Margaret Hamilton, your mom, there's recipes there that none of us have learned. Why don't you guys go back to the basics of some of the things that we want to pass down? Those of us that have really good real estate knowledge, pass it forward. Let's do some little podcasts and some Facebook Lives on the things that we have learned that work best. And be ready. I'm not saying you post all of the real estate things now because it might not be the time, but be ready to share those things. What is your favorite thing in business that worked for you? Start getting, drill down. What did that look like for you? Tammy says this thing all the time that goes along the lines of, it works so well, I stopped doing it. And we all do that. So one of the first tasks for you to do right now in your real estate world is to build your business fast. We just talked about this recently on a webinar that I did, a Zoom call actually, and all my stuff's in the resource center. So if you guys want to go back, you should be taking this time to re-energize your learning too. So when you're isolating, you're not turning off, right? Really, you should be revving up. Take the time to rejuvenate your soul and meditate, read, learn, all of that, but you should be revving up as well. You've got the time now, you've got a computer, you've got data. So if I was to ask you, what is your hottest neighborhood or town or village, whatever words you use, coming out of this? So for me, I would think it would be the biggest group of buyers right now are the millennials, right? So we know that age bracket. And so what are they buying? They're probably buying whatever your median price range is in the area that you live, right? Makes sense. Their pent-up demand for doing transactions is going to be huge, in my opinion. So what neighborhood is that? What does that look like for you? Run the data, get everybody's names and numbers. What can you do for marketing coming right out of this? I would strongly suggest that that would be something that you would be doing, so that you would have maybe mini market updates for that neighborhood. You would be knocking on doors, dropping off market updates. I'm not telling you to get out there and do that now, but I don't know, if you're not talking to people and you're just dropping it off, is that a good thing or a bad thing? You have to use, in some areas right now, there is no sign of anything as far as a health crisis because you're way more isolated than maybe I am in the Orlando market. So listen to the people that are guiding you. But if you're staying home, just be ready, get the data, and then when we're able to be out and about, you would go in those areas. So if you know what that neighborhood is, okay, the next thing would be, where do those people live right now that would be moving to that neighborhood, right? So are they in apartments? Are they renting? So what would you be doing to gather that data so that you could go to that group? So if you're going to the neighborhood that's going to be the most likely to sell, your conversation would be, when you can, I'm Janice Petteway with EXIT Realty. This is one of my favorite neighborhoods. I personally know that there's a lot of pent-up demand for this product in this school district, in this area, for our group of citizens that have not yet bought. And I'm just out looking for work. So if you or anybody you know is thinking about making a move, will you please think of me? And you really made a great decision buying in this area, and here's a market update. And if you don't mind, I'll be back probably every other month to update you on your equity and what you have done in your own personal path to your financial future. You made a good decision. Eventually, somebody's going to say, you know, we're thinking about moving, and you will be ready to get those listings. And then in the markets that those people live in now, which may just be with their parents, you're going to learn to post things, because we're going to talk about this great market and this great area. There's going to be so much, guys. But right now, I want you to talk about something every day that you love about the people that you're quarantined with, and I want it on the refrigerator. I want those good vibes inside your own households. Those of you that are alone in your household, I want you to be the one to do that with your friends and family that are also alone. I want you to create a group. Go ahead and sign up for free GoToMeeting or Zoom or whatever. Teach them to do that, or just call each other every day. I want you to think of people, especially our elderly, that are alone, and I want you to call them and say, be human, guys. I want you to call and tell them you're going to call them every day and just chat for a little while. I want you to plan to do something physical every single day to get your body moving. So what about teaching your kids to dance or to garden or something outside of your own brain right now? I want you to also write down, and tomorrow we'll talk about this more, but I know it's on your mind, and finances could be a little stressful right now, but you and I both know that this has happened over the last month. So whatever is happening today with your finances probably didn't just happen. So you get what I'm saying. I'm sure you're hearing me, but I want you to write down every outlay. Get out your credit cards, get out everything. And I want you to chart where you're at, what you have in reserves. I want you to look at your charge cards and all of that, because I want you to see the things that you no longer have value in, the things you don't need. So if we need to talk about eliminating, you can start thinking about what that is. We have forgotten some things. One of the best things that came out of the 2008 crisis is that my children really learned that there really wasn't a money tree in my backyard. And some of their best habits and life lessons, and especially on finances, came out of seeing their mother go through that. So I want you to understand that being honest with your children through this is a very good thing. So we are going to get through this, all of us together. There's nothing to fear, but fear itself is so true. So don't worry about things twice. I'll see you tomorrow. And please, the last thing I want to say to you is, don't leave me alone in my belief in your ability to be successful. Thanks, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.